It's a real honor to me, for me to not only be here, but a privilege to speak and to be able to say a few words. Murugan and I have a relationship that goes back now over a dozen years, and even though Murugan worked at Oracle, he was buried somewhere in the application server division, I think, and it was hard for us to develop a relationship in those days, but I think it was Vinod that may have introduced us at Acera. And Acera was a company that, boy, had all the earmarks on it of real success coming out of the internet boom. The problem was it was right at the end of the boom, and you don't want to be the last company in the boom, and Acera was the last company in the boom. But it had remarkable technology and remarkable concept and intent for the future. And it had behind it a lot of really, really smart people. But you know, out of every kind of mistake or failure or whatever you want to call, you know, the lack of our success at Acera, you always pick up something. I'm a big believer in silver linings. You always come away either smarter, you come away with relationships, and that's certainly how I feel about Acera, is I felt I established a lifelong friend and relationship in Murugan out of Acera. So as we tried to wrap it up there and try to figure out what to do, I talked to Murugan, as Vinod did, and said, well, let's figure out how we can work together. It's really easy in the venture capital business. You just simply come to the office and we work together and we just look at good ideas and see if anything develops. And something did develop that Murugan and I got pretty excited about. And that was the open source database. When I'm just blanking on it. MySQL. So in MySQL, we decided to go after this. We decided to go after it hard, and we had put together, I think, maybe 3 months worth of work into this deal to try and figure out what the right value was, what the right relationship was, how to deal with the founders who were open source devotees living in Scandinavia, I believe Sweden, and how to deal with their either lack of capitalistic tendencies, or when we found out in the end their true devotion to capitalistic tendencies. And so Murugan and I just worked our butts off to do this, and we thought we had it right. Now, who better than Murugan and I, coming from out of Oracle, to basically do something and be a partner and serve on the board of a company like MySQL. And right at the last minute, hope I don't offend anybody from Benchmark here, but right at the last minute, a really smart venture capitalist named Kevin Harvey said, well, if Murugan and Ray are interested in this deal at that price, we'll just double the price. And we found out what true capitalists, these open source Swedish guys were all about. So we didn't do that deal. But coming out of that, Murugan and I went to work. Really, maybe the more serious work of trying to think about how we take advantage of, how we actually help and make money in the open source business in its nascent state. And I made a statement to Murugan one day. I said, what if we didn't bet on any company, on any idea, on any product? We bet on all of them. We bet on the entire sector, and we allow that sector to develop its own best of breed, and we help those best of breed components come together into a system. Because what has always made technology work is what goes into making it perform, not so much the single product that gets developed. I mean, most of you probably have worked with Oracle's database. It's not Oracle's database that's so great, it's what goes on around that database, the applications that are developed, the performance monitoring tools, things like that. And so could we deliver what hadn't there been, before that, been delivered to the open source world, to make it a system, to keep the updates in the marketplace, to keep programmers and developers feeling like they had something to rely on when they bet on the next release? Could we get release coordination between the components? It just and in Murugan, once I just kind of turned him on, he just came out with idea after idea after idea. And he just kept on going until we had a company. I don't think we even had a day or an hour where we said, let's start a company. Murugan kind of disappeared into our incubator, set up the company, put all of the framework into the company and the infrastructure into the company, so the servers had everything running, had an entire office running with only open source software. So only the components we were going to support we would use internally. And then I think a turning moment where Murugan and I, kind of in my office, the privacy closed door, I said, you know, Murugan, if we just think like developers, and we just think about what the life they're living using open source software, we will be successful. And we said, okay, that will be our mantra. That will be how we develop this company. And we went forward in developing the company that grew to be a pretty sizable company. We did not get to the success we wanted to get to, but became a sizable, important company to the open source world. And I see Kim's here. We recruited Kim to be the CEO, and a lot of folks that worked at the company are here. So it's the only time that I have been a founder. It's not I'm a big company guy, and Murugan allowed me to be a co-founder. He allowed me to put on my card, co-founder of SpikeSource. It was kind of cool. And Kim would always call me co-founder. You know, but it was kind of cool because it's a title I had never had before. So that was the foundation of this relationship. The admiration that I had for his mind, his IQ, his thoughtfulness was really important. But more important was his very visible ethics, his very visible integrity, his very visible do the right thing. Doesn't mean I always listened to Murugan. Every time I didn't listen to him, I regretted it. But he always told me the right thing. I totally agree with Vinod that he said, look, here's what we should do. Here's what we're doing that's wrong, and we should change it. But it was always the right thing. And I think that's what created my bond with Murugan, is that honesty, integrity, doing the right thing when the right thing is harder to do. That really brought me very, very close to him. I want to tell a couple stories. Liven the place up a little bit. So I'd never been to India. Murugan was my tour guide in India. So we decided to go visit a number of companies that we were going to obviously support in the open source world, and also find a partner that would be a services partner for us. So we went visiting all these services partners, and a couple of things happened in India. First of all, since I'd never been to India, I didn't know what to expect. I was really looking forward to it. But I did a treatment on my face before I left with a chemical called Effudex. I don't know if some of you have ever tried this, but if you have light skin, you're prone to get, pre-cancer kind of things from the sun and all that. It's something you can take that basically brings it out. Just kind of brings anything that's hidden under the skin, just brings it out, and it just kind of falls off of you. Rather than getting it burned off with liquid nitrogen or surgery or anything like that. It was a new thing at the time. And I said to my dermatologist, I said, sure. You can see how light skin I am, freckles and all. So I said, sure, let's do it. In fact, it might be perfect because I will be gone for 2 weeks. So she didn't tell me, though, that a week into it, your face turns really red. It gets raw red because your skin's under attack. And so you get red, and all this stuff is coming out, and then you start getting black splotches all over your face. And so right when we are getting all of our pictures taken with all of these future partners of Spikesaurus, I'm in a picture with all of these dark faces in India, and I've got this bright red face with black splotches all over me. I've got all those pictures, and it was special. Second story was it on our second trip with Ajit? Was Ajit on the second trip, or was he on the first trip? First trip. Okay, so you're from Chennai, and Ajit is from Pune. And I got the lesson on the way over there about food in the north and food in the south. Okay, it's like, this is worse than the Mason-Dixon line in the United States. It's worse than Texas and Massachusetts fight. This is food wars like you've never seen. And literally, I'd be in a line to get food, and Murugan would say, "Do not get that," and Ajit would say, "Yes, you want that." And I got this wonder. I got a PhD now in southern versus northern food in India, and it was a wonderful time. But the most special moment, we went to visit President Kalam. And I had, in a subsequent trip, also met the Prime Minister. But in this trip, we got to see President Kalam. And so we walked into his office. Huge, huge office. And as we're talking to him, a peacock walked into the office. It's a bird. A bird walks into the office, and it's got its plumage out like that. And of course, they knew, the three of them, Murugan, Ajit, and President Kalam, knew what good fortune and what good luck this was. To have this bird walk into his office, and of course his office went out into the gardens, so yeah, I guess many birds out there, but to have him come in, and the respect that Murugan and Ajit showed for this man, who was a great leader in India, was remarkable, and I think a great education for me. I returned a year later to see President Kalam, and he showed me about a 64-inch flat screen television with a peacock on it, and he thought that was cool. The bird walking in, not cool, but if he had it, the bird. So these were fun times. I mean, one's life is just an accumulation of memories. And I have more memories, but these are the greatest memories that I have of our relationship, something that I treasure deeply and will continue to treasure the rest of my life. And as I said, when you have a friend in Murugan, you have somebody who is totally a friend, like a family member, will tell you like it is, whether you want to hear it or not. And that is a friend, and a friend for life. So Murugan, thank you for everything you've done for me, because I couldn't have gotten to where I am today without you. Thank you.